10 things that will cause you to lose chess games. The first 5 we're going to look at are beginner level. The next 5 we're going to look at are intermediate level. But if you're doing any of these things, it's probably causing you to lose games and you need to eliminate them. Let's get started. Number 1 on our list, you're not controlling the center of the board. You should never start a game of chess with the move A4 or H4 or B4 or G4. Unless, of course, your name is Magnus Carlsen, then you can do whatever you want. But for everybody else, you need to be playing E4 or D4, trying to get both of those pawns in the center. C4 is one exception that's kind of a good opening for white. It's called the English opening. It lets your queen out, and there are some ideas here. But generally, E4 and D4 is what you need to do and fight for control of the center. Number 2 on our list is you're not developing your pieces, your knights and your bishops specifically. Your job at the start of a chess game should be to develop these pieces as quickly as you possibly can and develop every single one of them. Some people will just develop 1 or 2 and they think is good enough, or maybe 3. You want to try to get all 4 of them off of the back as quickly as you can. In a perfect world, you'll have both of your pawns sitting here, and then you just bring them out. You just bring them out, and you're good to go. Now, of course, if you've played chess more than 2 hours, you know that most of people are not going to just let you do this, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky, but the concept is exactly the same. Bring these 4 pieces out as quickly as you can, and you're going to be in much better shape. If you're not doing that, that's probably a reason why you're losing some of your games. The third thing that you should not do is make too many pawn moves early in the game. So have you ever seen someone play a game of chess like this? Make a pawn move, and then they make another pawn move, and then they make another pawn move, and then they kind of start doing something like this, and then they kind of do this. This is not a good strategy because, well, a number of reasons. Number 1, you're not developing your pieces, which we just talked about. If you're making a pawn move, you can't be making another move with a piece at the same time, so you're wasting time. And the other thing that happens when you make pawn moves, every single time a pawn moves forward, it leaves behind something that it can no longer control. So if we look at this position here on the board, this G3 square will never again in this game be controlled by a white pawn, right? Because pawns can't go backwards. You can't just move back to control that. So this is a permanent weak square that black can take advantage of. The knight can just hop in right away and start attacking stuff. The bishop can come over here and attack the king. And all that happened because you made these random pawn moves and created those weaknesses. So you always have to think about that. Every time you move a pawn forward, it creates weaknesses. Are you really committed to living with that the rest of the game? And that is why these strategies where you move so many pawns early generally don't work out. Please do not do that. If we go back to our kind of perfect example here, where you have just the 2 pawns in the center, look at how my pawns don't leave any weak squares behind. Look at this. There's no weak squares that the pawns are leaving. Everything is controlled. And then you have the pieces kind of filling in the gaps as well. And you just get this massive control of the board and you don't have those weak spots. Okay, so don't move too many pawns early in the game. Number 4 on the list is don't bring out your queen too early. A lot of people think that since the queen is the most powerful piece on the board, they should bring it out right away, just start attacking stuff. And there are crazy tricks like this, where if they play G6, where yes, you can take this and now you have a fork and you're going to win the rook. But if they don't fall for those tricks, you're in big trouble. And that is why I do not recommend that you start games by bringing out your queen early. Even if you get lucky and snag a pawn like this, a lot of times you're still going to be in a really tough spot. Like in this position, notice how black now is just going to start gaining time attacking your queen. D5 attacks the queen. They can even capture here, and you might think, oh, but there's another pawn. I'm coming in. I'm going to get the rook. No, you're not. They're just going to play rook G8. It's defended. You have to move. You're losing a knight. Your position is terrible. And look at all of black's pieces that are really just starting to control the board. And all you have done this game is move your queen around a bunch of times. It's 9 times out of 10, never a good strategy. Please don't keep bringing your queen out so early. Number 5 on our list, you might be losing games because you're not castling early enough in the game. The general rule is that you want to castle before move 10. And if you're following all of the other principles that we talked about and only moving these 2 pawns forward, what that means is you're going to have this very pretty wall of pawns that your king can hide behind. Let's take this example. We castle. Look at this. Our king is very nicely defended by these pawns. There are no weaknesses because we didn't move any of them forward. All of these squares are controlled, and it's going to be very difficult for our opponent to attack our king. Okay, you can also do the same thing on the queen side, although it's a little bit more difficult because the queen is in the way, so it takes you a little bit longer. So king side tends to be easier, and it's what you will see more often, but this is a great strategy, and if you're not doing this, that might be why you're losing, because if your king gets stuck in the center, that's when bad things happen, okay? Castle before move 10, please. Now we're going to get to the more intermediate level things that you might be doing that are causing you to lose. Number 6 on our list is you're blocking your own pieces from developing. This is very, very common, but it's also very, very bad. A lot of people in this position will play a move like d3. d3 is not a good move because you're blocking the bishop that you need to develop. Yes, you can go to e2, but that's really not the greatest square, and it's cramping your position. Really, the bishop should go here or here. So don't make moves that block your own pieces. Another example, knight to e2. This is a move that you should not be playing. You're blocking your own bishop. And I think a lot of people's logic goes, well, I'll move it later. Like, I'll just move this knight at some other point, and then I'll get the bishop out. It'll be fine. But what you don't realize is that at the start of the game, it's kind of like a race. It's like a race between you and your opponent. Who can develop their pieces the fastest? Who can get control of the center the fastest? Who can get their king to safety the fastest? Who can start creating a really nice attack the fastest? Usually that person's going to win the game. And even though you can take time later to move this around and get your bishop out, you just slowed yourself down. And you didn't have to do that, right? Your opponent is going to be slowing you down enough with what they're doing. You don't want to add extra obstacles for your own pieces on your own, right? And so don't block your own pieces, okay? Get the bishop out first if you really wanted to move your knight to e2, right? And then it's fine. Now you can go to e2. You didn't block your bishop. You're not slowing anything down. You can still castle, and everything is good. But please, do not block your own pieces, and make sure you get those 4 pieces out as quickly as you can, okay? The number 7 thing you might be doing that's causing you to lose games is not looking at your opponent's threats or not doing a proper blunder check. Okay, so every single time your opponent makes a move, you should be asking yourself the question, what are they threatening? And how do I need to respond to every single move? And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose games. I can guarantee it. So let's take a quick example here. The game goes on. What is my opponent doing? Well, they're developing their knight. Okay, what's the threat? Oh, they're attacking my pawn. I should probably defend that. Okay, my opponent plays the move knight to a5. What are they doing? Why did they go there, and what's the threat? Well, I don't know why they went there. It's attacking my bishop. I should probably deal with that. Now, how should we deal with that? Well, keeping all the other things that we already talked about in mind, I want to finish developing my pieces. I have 3 out of 4, but this guy is not done. So I'm going to defend my bishop and at the same time, get ready to bring this one out. Okay? Notice how I'm accomplishing 2 things at the same time. They take me, I take them. Okay, let's keep going. Right here, we play queen d2. Our opponent plays bishop g4. What's the threat? Well, maybe they want to take my knight and expose my king. Okay, so what can we do? How about queen to e3 to defend so that if they take, we can take back with the queen. That makes a lot of sense. Opponent goes bishop to h5. Is there a threat here? Maybe not so much. Let's continue with the game. Rook to d1. Aha, now look at this move. Knight to g4. What is the threat? Well, knight's attacking the queen, right? So we move our queen. Doesn't really matter where we move it to. Any move should be fine, right? Wrong. And here is a very, very critical thing that you need to understand. Okay, when your opponent makes a move, there might be more than just one threat. There might be multiple threats. And you have to make sure you identify that. Because if you said queen to e2 here, that is a huge blunder. And you are now losing your bishop because the queen and the bishop are lined up over here. They're going to take you, and they're going to take you. You just lost a piece, and you're going to lose this game probably. And why did that happen? Because when they played knight to g4, all you identified was one threat, not the other threat as well. Now, if you notice both of these, then you're going to have to start thinking through things like, should I take the bishop and go for this trade? Does this benefit me or not? Let's see. If I take here, they take me. 2 rooks and a bishop, a knight, 2 knights and a... No, it's not a good trade. They have an extra rook for a knight, right? You don't want to do that. So the better move in this position is actually just queen to d2. Because yes, you deal with this threat, but you also keep the queen defending the bishop so that if this happens, you're fine. You're not losing a piece. It's just a big trade and everybody's happy. Okay? The key point, every time your opponent makes a move, identify all of the threats that come along with that, not just one, because sometimes there are multiple. Okay? Please, please, please pay close attention. And if you have to rewatch this part, make sure you're checking all the threats. All right. Number 8 thing that you might be doing causing you to lose games is playing too fast. Okay, not slowing down. So in this game, I can imagine that a lot of people would see this and be like, oh, okay, I got to move the queen. That's easy enough. Let's just go over here and we're good to go. Oops. And you lose the bishop, right? And that's probably not because it's so hard to see this. I mean, this is not that difficult of a move. It's probably because you didn't slow down and take the time to ask yourself, wait a second, what are all the threats in the position? And if you're somebody who said, well, I'm going to lose on time if I do this, right? I'm going to just lose every game on time. I want you to do an exercise for me, okay? I want you to go and look at your last 20 games. And I want you to flip through them. And I want you to write down how many of those 20 games did you lose on time? Or were you like about to lose on time and then you blundered at the very end? And see how many it is. Because for most people, that's not the reason you're losing. That's not the reason you're losing, right? Now, if you're an exception, you're like, well, 10 of those 20 games, Nelson, I lost on time. That's different. Then you need to work on time management and play faster. But for everybody else, if you're having like 2, maybe 3 games out of 20 that you lose on time, that tells me that's not the biggest problem, right? Most of the problems are going to come from not doing the proper blunder check and identifying all of the threats. Okay, so slow down, take your time, and you're going to win more games. The number 9 reason that you might be losing chess games is neglecting king safety. Now, this is different from just castling. Okay, castling is one way to get your king safe, and that is something you should definitely do at the start of the game. But as the game goes on and pieces move around and things happen, your king might not be safe just where it is, right? You might have to do something else to keep it safe, and you always want to be thinking about that when you're playing your games. If not, you're going to lose games that you probably should have won. I want to show you this game. This was a game played by one of my students, okay? They were playing as white. They're about 1142 in this game. They're a little bit higher now, but they were 1142 playing against another 1100. And I want you to watch what happens in this game. They're playing as white. Pretty even game to start out. Okay, great. There were some mistakes here and there. But right around this part of the game, look what happened. Black blunders the rook, which also was a fork, which means they blundered the bishop. So it was a really big mistake. And then I don't know if they just got tilted or what happened here. They blundered the rook as well. Okay, so they literally just lost like all their pieces in a couple of moves. I mean, look at this. All they have is a queen and a knight. White has the queen, the 2 rooks, the pawns. And watch what happens. My student starts to push the pawn thinking, look, let's just get a queen. Why not? I'm so far ahead. Let's just make this easy on myself, which makes sense, right? But wait a second. They ended up getting checkmated a few moves later. Now, how did this happen? It happened because right here, they didn't identify that, look, my king is actually not that safe. Even though I'm ahead, all this material, 2 rooks, a queen, all these connected passed pawns, the king was not safe. And all they had to do at this point was say, like, look, I got to stop this threat. I got to protect my king. If you guys would like to pause, what's a very simple solution for white? If you had a chance to look at that, just queen takes f7. Super easy move. You grab the pawn. You also control here. There's really nothing that black can do. It's going to be very difficult for black to figure out a way to go through. Another thing that they could have done, king to g2, just to defend that way. And on queen here, you've got this, and then you play rook to f2. And look at this. You have this nice little fortress, and now the king is pretty safe. The knight, the queen, they can't really do anything. Everything is defended. And just by slowing down, taking that time to identify the king weakness, they would have won this game, right? Now, my student has been playing great, and overall, this was a well-played game, but it just goes to show how, like, you can play a really great game, and if you make that one critical mistake at the end of not paying attention to your king safety, all of a sudden, you find yourself checkmated a few moves later, okay? Take the time, look at your king, and make sure that it is safe, or it's going to cost you games. All right, number 10, last but certainly not least of reasons why you're losing chess games is you're playing on tilt. Okay, tilt. If you don't know what that word means, essentially you're upset, you're angry, you're annoyed because something happened, you lost the game, and you keep playing in that state, in that mindset of like, I'm frustrated. I shouldn't play right now, but I'm going to anyway. That kind of thing, right? How many times have you found yourself losing game after game after game because you're really just playing worse and worse and worse, and you're just getting even more frustrated the more you play, right? That's tilt. So let's take an example here, and I'm going to show you how to fix this, okay? I'm going to show you exactly how to fix this. Let's imagine my student here, Ted. Shout out to Ted if you're watching, by the way. He's playing this game. He's like, okay, I've been playing great. This guy blundered. I'm about to get another queen. And then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, forgot about that. Ooh, now the queen's coming in. Let me see if I can escape. He's so frustrated. What does he probably do? Man, all right, new game, rematch, new game. Just jump right in, start playing again. He's frustrated. He's playing quickly. He's doing things that he doesn't normally do. What do you think's going to happen? He might lose again, right? And it's this cycle that never ends, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to listen carefully here. I'm going to tell you how to fix tilt. Now, this only works if you do it, okay? It only works if you do it. But it's called the 5-5-5 rule. And I made this up myself as a way to combat tilt. But like I said, you have to do it for it to work. Here's how it works. Next time you lose a game like this, and you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling like, man, I can't believe that just happened. I'm pretty upset. And you're about to play another game. I want you to stop. And I want you to say, Nelson said 5-5-5. Okay, fine. 5-5-5 works like this. Immediately when you're in that mindset, before you play the next game, I want you to set a timer for 5 minutes. Okay, it could be on your phone. It could be a kitchen timer or like on the microwave, whatever, just anywhere. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Immediately after that, I want you to get up and do 5 jumping jacks. Okay, it doesn't have to be jumping jacks. It could be 5 jumps up and down, 5 lunges, 5, whatever. Just something that's going to increase your circulation, get your blood flowing. 5 jumping jacks or something, okay? So you set the timer for 5 minutes. You do your 5 jumping jacks. And then I want you to go to your front door, open the door if you live at a house or if it's an apartment or whatever. Go to the apartment door. If you can't do that, maybe go to your window, whatever. Something where you can get some fresh air. I want you to step outside, and I want you to take 5 deep breaths, okay? 5 times while you're standing outside. That's it. 5 deep breaths. Then you can walk back in, you can sit back down at your computer, whatever. Don't start the next game until that timer that you set goes off, okay? I promise you, if you just take those 5 minutes, you do those 5-5-5, you're going to be in a better mindset than if you just immediately play again. Okay? I think that is going to save you from losing so many points for silly reasons when you're playing tilted. All right? Let me know down below if that works for you guys. Try it, but you have to do it, right? You have to do it. You have to stop after the first game. You can't just keep playing because then the 5-5-5 isn't going to work. Okay? Those are 10 things that you need to eliminate if you want to win games in 2024. Let me know what you guys think. What's your favorite tip that you learned here? I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.